In most cases, when a man is trying to get a woman back after a breakup, the no contact rule is an ineffective strategy. It doesn't work. In some cases, it will work, but in most cases, it just ends up causing more problems for the guy and he loses his woman in the process. Now, I want to point out a couple of things before we begin. Number one, this video is for men. The no contact rule works differently on men than it does for women. So this is about men getting women back. It's not about women getting men back. Women who use the no contact rule have a completely different result than men who use the no contact rule on a woman who they're trying to get back. So this is for men. Number two, when I talk about examples of when it's not effective to use the no contact rule, I'm referring to the no contact rule that is 30 days. So that's 30 days after a breakup, you don't contact your ex, and even if she contacts you, you just remain silent. What I've found is that in most cases where a guy tries to use the 30-day no contact rule on a woman to get her back, it ends up backfiring. So let's get into 10 examples of when it's not a good idea to use the 30-day no contact rule, and then 6 examples of where it's okay to use it and where it can work. So the first example of when not to use the no contact rule is she's no longer attracted to you. When a guy gets broken up with by a woman, it's usually because she has lost respect for him and can't feel attracted to him anymore. As a result, she's no longer in love with him. So she's pretty much over it. She doesn't want to be with him anymore. Then she goes ahead and dumps him. She leaves the relationship, she walks away, and she feels fine about it. She doesn't feel like she's missing out on anything because she doesn't feel attracted to him anymore and she just doesn't want to be with him. So when he doesn't contact her for 30 days or for 60 days, she doesn't really care about that. Some women might be affected by that and think, well, hang on, why isn't my ex contacting me? And in cases like that, she may decide to contact him just to check that he is still actually missing her. And when she finds that out, she can then continue to move on. However, what happens in most cases is that the woman just moves on. She doesn't try to contact her ex anymore because she doesn't actually want to be with him. She goes out and has some fun with her girlfriends and meets some new guys, potentially hooks up with a guy very quickly or soon after the breakup. Alternatively, she might get on online dating or use an app like Tinder and have loads of dates lined up so she can easily move on. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule is you took her for granted. So say for example, a man was in a relationship with a woman and he wasn't treating her very well. She really loved him. She was trying to do her best to make the relationship work, and he didn't really put in his fair share. He might have just expected her to put up with his bad behavior and bad treatment of her because she loved him so much, or because the sex was so good, or because he's such a confident guy and he knows that other women would want him, so she's lucky to have him. In a situation like that, a woman will eventually get to the point where she's sick and tired of being taken for granted and she'll dump her guy. If the guy then doesn't contact her, she will usually see that as yet another sign that he doesn't care about her and that he's not the sort of guy that she should settle down with. Not only didn't he care about her feelings in the relationship and just do whatever he wanted, but he's doing the same thing now. Of course, in some cases, a woman will contact her ex who has taken her for granted and then doesn't contact her. However, the majority of women who have been taken for granted and have been treated badly by a guy and have had enough of it will see him not contacting her as yet another sign that he's just the same guy that she broke up with. Why is she going to go back to him and give him all the power and be in the lower position when she's sick of that, right? She's sick of being in that position. She wants a more even type of relationship. Of course, there are exceptions. Some women will go back to a guy who has taken her for granted and isn't contacting her. She's addicted to him. She's addicted to the sex, she's addicted to how confident he is, and she will just keep going back to him for a while. However, the majority of women will just move on and they'll see him not contacting her as yet another example of him just taking her for granted and not giving a crap about her, basically. The third example of when you should not use the no contact rule is she can move on easily without you. Some women know that they can easily attract a new guy. Some women have plenty of girlfriends that they can go out and party with. Some women know that they can easily get on an online dating site or a Tinder app, something like that, and instantly have loads of dates lined up. Some women know that there are many guys at their work or university who are interested in them. And all she has to do is open herself up to that, and she can easily start dating and having sex with new guys. So if a woman is the type of woman who can easily move on after a breakup, the no contact rule often backfires. She doesn't hear from her ex for 10 days, 20 days, and then 30 days. And somewhere along the line, she's most likely going to think, well, I'm going to make myself feel better by just moving on with one of the many guys who are interested in me, or I'm going to go out with my girlfriends and hook up with a guy and make myself feel good. I don't have to be thinking about my ex. I don't have to worry about him. We're broken up now. I can do whatever I want. The next example of when you shouldn't use the no contact rule is she's had plenty of experience with breakups. If a woman is very young and doesn't have much experience with breakups, the no contact rule can work well on her. She most likely won't be able to deal with not having her ex in her life anymore. She won't be able to deal with the fact that she dumped him, but he isn't chasing her. He isn't trying to get her back. He's just cut off contact. And she will wonder what is going on. How could he accept the breakup so easily? And she will most likely contact him and open herself back up to the relationship to get him back and feel better about herself. However, if a woman has had some experience with breakups, she will know what guys do, and she will know how she feels after a breakup. She will know that there is some initial pain, but it goes away. She will know that she can move on after a breakup and that she can be happy with another guy. So if her ex doesn't contact her, she doesn't have to worry about that. She knows that she can move on, she can make herself feel better, and she doesn't have to go back to a relationship with a guy who potentially hasn't even changed and potentially won't even be able to change. He hasn't interacted with her, so she doesn't know if he's changed, she doesn't know if he has the potential to change, and she doesn't know if she's going to feel differently around him when they interact. All she is going on is how she felt leading up to the breakup and during the breakup, which was she was turned off. She wanted out of the relationship. So there's no real reason for her to go back to that if she's had some experience with breakups and she knows that she's going to be able to get over it and move on. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule is she has too much self-pride to chase you. Sometimes a guy will get dumped by his woman and not contact her. She will be sitting around thinking about him and missing him and regretting the breakup. Yet she doesn't want to come across as a woman who comes crawling back after a breakup. She doesn't want to come across as a woman who needs him. So a woman like that is going to have too much self-pride to come chasing her ex and trying to get another chance with him. She may be feeling hurt by the fact that he isn't contacting her, but she doesn't want to lower herself by contacting him. In reality, contacting him isn't lowering herself, but according to the way that she thinks, with all of her self-pride, it is going to be an act of lowering herself. She worries that she's going to lose face, that she's not going to look as independent as she has been claiming to be all along. So in cases like that, what a woman will usually do is just try to move on by hooking up with new guys and going out and enjoying herself, rather than coming back to her ex and losing that sense of power that she has over him. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule is her friends and family don't like you. If a woman's family and friends agree with her decision to break up with a guy, then they're most likely going to let her know that after the breakup. If her ex-guy isn't contacting her, they're most likely going to use that as a reason to say things like, well, see, he doesn't really care, or see, he's not man enough to contact you, or see, this just proves that he plays mind games, or that he isn't mature enough to face the situation head on. Or see, I told you, he never really loved you. He's probably out there hooking up with new women now. You deserve better. They'll essentially say things to support her decision because they want to get him out of her life and out of their life. So in cases like that, using the no contact rule doesn't benefit a guy. Of course, don't get me wrong. There are exceptions. Sometimes if a woman's family and friends don't like a guy and he doesn't contact them, it might give them a little bit of time to calm down and start to think that he isn't so bad after all. Yet those are the exceptions. What I'm talking about are the majority of situations that guys face out there when they're trying to get a woman back. In this case, for example, a guy's trying to get a woman back, but her friends and family don't like him. In most cases, what will happen is that they will use the no contact as a way of pointing out negatives about him. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule is, she never really loved you. Sometimes a woman will get into a relationship with a guy because she felt some attraction for him. She had a bit of a crush on him, or he grew on her over time and eventually got her into a relationship. Yet she never truly, deeply loved him. She may have felt some love for him at times, but it just wasn't enough to make her feel like she was totally in love with him. Right? So she always knew in her heart that he was a good guy and she felt some love for him, but there was just something missing. Right? Something was telling her that he wasn't the right guy for her. Unfortunately, a lot of guys don't know how to fix that problem when they're in it. To point out quickly, the way to fix that problem is to give her the attraction experience that she really wants. A classic example is where a guy is really nice and sweet and soft and gentle, and he's basically trying to be like the perfect boyfriend or husband. Right? He's just being really nice to her and supportive and letting her get her way all the time. Yet, that isn't exciting for a woman. Right? What a woman really wants, in addition to having a good man, is that the guy actually has some balls, right? That he puts her back in her place in a dominant but loving way at times, right? Where she can look up to him and respect him, where she feels like a feminine woman around him. She doesn't feel like just a friend in a neutral way. She doesn't feel just bored and plain and like everything's just so nice and soft and gentle. He is clearly the man and she is clearly the woman, right? So in cases where a woman never really loved a guy and he then uses the 30-day no contact rule on her, it will usually backfire, right? She never really loved him. She knows that he doesn't know how to give her the attraction experience that she really wants. She's given him plenty of chances before. She's hinted at it. She's nagged him. She's tried to talk to him about things and complain about things, but he just didn't get it. He might have been the sort of guy that thought that being the perfect gentleman was exactly what a woman wanted, and that doing anything other than that is wrong. As a result, she just felt bored. Right? There was no excitement. There was no edge. It was just too plain and neutral. So this is another example of when not to use the no contact rule. Of course, there are exceptions. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes a woman never really loved a guy. She breaks up with him. He doesn't contact her. And then she realizes that she misses him and she wants him back. Yet in most cases, what really happens is that the woman knows why she broke up with him. She knows that he's a good guy, but there just wasn't enough of a spark there. There wasn't enough of a spark to cause her to feel like she was totally in love with him. Therefore, she feels like she just has to move on. When he doesn't contact her, she might feel disappointed about that, and she might even feel a bit hurt. But in most cases, she's not going to come running back to a guy that she was never really in love with. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule, she's an independent woman. This is different to her having too much self-pride to chase you after a breakup. Having too much self-pride is an act, right? It's about a front that she's putting on. On the other hand, being an independent woman means that she really is an independent woman. She doesn't actually need a guy to feel happy. She doesn't need a guy in her life. She wants to have a boyfriend, but she can go without it. Or she wants to have a husband, but she can go without it. Right? A truly independent woman. Women like that can break up with a guy and completely shut off their feelings for him. They can easily just move on and get on with their life without worrying about the relationship that they've just lost. Right? So when a guy uses the no contact rule and doesn't contact her, it usually backfires. She just gets on with her life without him. The next example of when not to use the no contact rule is she has plenty of single girlfriends who want to party with her. If a woman breaks up with a guy and she has plenty of single girlfriends who want to go and party with her, she will usually go along with them and do that. When a woman goes out and parties and maybe drinks some alcohol, all sorts of things can happen. Right? She can meet a guy that she finds attractive and he can be turning her on as he's talking to her, and she doesn't feel like she has to be loyal to her ex anymore. Right? She's feeling attracted in the moment and she can just go with it. Some women might not do that initially because they might not want to hook up with a guy very quickly, but most women will. What I've found by helping guys over the years is that so many guys have heard their ex-woman say that she's not going to hook up with any guys after the breakup. She's not interested in dating, she's not interested in having a relationship, she's not interested in any other guys, she just wants to be alone. Yet days or a week later, she's already in a relationship with a new guy, or she's hooked up with a new guy. So in the case where a woman has a lot of single girlfriends who want to go out and party with her, the no contact rule will often backfire. What may happen, for example, is a woman goes out and parties with her single girlfriends and she starts missing her ex. She hasn't heard from him for a week, so she texts him. Yet he doesn't respond because he's using the no contact rule. Then she has a few more drinks, she starts wanting to make herself feel better, there's guys hitting on her, and she opens herself up to that. The next thing you know, she has sex with one of those guys, or she kisses him, she exchanges phone numbers, they go on a date, they get into a relationship, and her ex suddenly starts becoming a distant memory. She's enjoying the feelings of lust and attraction for the new guy, and she goes along with that. She doesn't have to feel so bad about the fact that her ex isn't contacting her. Of course, those are the situations where a woman actually does care. A lot of times when a guy gets dumped, the woman doesn't really care afterwards, right? She's over it. From her perspective, she gave him more than enough chances and he wasn't able to change. He wasn't able to give her the attraction experience that she really wanted, and she fell out of love with him. She doesn't want to be with him anymore. So when he doesn't contact her, she doesn't really care about it. And the final example of when not to use the no contact rule is you didn't attract her in the ways that were important to her. So with this example, the woman was kind of attracted, but she knew that she wanted to feel more. He was never really able to make her feel fully attracted to him. He assumed that because the sex was good at the start and she used to be in love with him, she would stick with him for life. Yet she got to a point where she was tired of waiting for him to improve. She was bored of the fact that there wasn't really much of a spark between him and her. So if a woman breaks up with a guy in a situation like that and he uses the no contact rule, she's usually not going to feel much motivation to go back to him. She might feel a little bit disappointed that he's not contacting her, but she will remember why she broke up with him. She will know that there really wasn't much of a spark between him and her, and if she went back to him, it'll probably be more of the same. In fact, she knows that it might even be worse because he may have lost a lot of confidence as a result of being dumped. Therefore, he's going to be a bit more self-doubting and nervous and anxious around her, which isn't attractive to women. Women are naturally attracted to emotional strength in men and turned off by emotional weakness. Of course, there are some exceptions. Sometimes a woman hasn't felt much attraction in a relationship, she breaks up with a guy, and he then doesn't contact her. She then contacts him and wants to get back with him. That does happen, but those are a small percentage of situations. In the vast majority of cases, if a woman didn't really feel attracted to her ex, she's not going to come running back to him simply because he's not contacting her. Instead, she'll remember why she broke up with him, she'll try to move on, and if she meets a guy who she finds more attractive and interesting, she will almost always hook up with that guy to help herself move on. Okay, so those were some examples of when not to use the no contact rule. Here are some examples of when it's okay to use it and when it can work at times. Number 1, you know for sure that she won't be able to handle the fact that you're not contacting her. She will miss you like crazy and then try to get you back. If you know for sure that your ex just won't be able to handle the fact that you're not contacting her, then go ahead. You can run that risk. And I say risk because it is still a risk. It's not guaranteed that if you don't contact her, she's going to come running back to you. There's still a risk that she's going to think, well, no, the relationship's over, I don't want to go back. Or she's going to have too much self-pride to contact you, or she's going to meet a new guy that she finds interesting and attractive. Those risks are still there if you use the no contact rule. However, if you know for sure that your ex-girl will be absolutely missing you like crazy and won't be able to handle it, then go ahead. Don't contact her. Hopefully she will contact you, hopefully she'll be missing you and will make the ex back process easy for you and you'll get her back. The next example of when it's okay to use the no contact rule is you want to get over her. The no contact rule was originally prescribed by therapists and relationship counselors as a way for a couple to get over each other and move on. In most cases, it was used to help the woman get away from a guy who was trying to get her back. And a relationship counselor would suggest that they have 30 days of no contact to calm down and figure out what they want. Another thing is that men and women tend to use the no contact rule for different purposes. For example, with this video here, the woman who made it, she's a smart woman, she is giving helpful advice, and she is sincerely helping women who want to move on from a relationship and not go back to it. She is suggesting the no contact rule for women as a way to get over their man and stop going back to the relationship. That is what most people use the no contact rule for, right? So if you want to get over your ex-girlfriend or ex-wife and you want to get to the point where you don't want her anymore, then the no contact rule can help. It's not a guarantee though. I've been helping new guys to get women back for many years now. I've seen all the cases, heard all of the strategies that guys use, and worked out where guys go wrong and what they should be doing instead. One of the things I've found is that most guys who really love their ex-girlfriend or ex-wife don't get over her for years, right? So a guy might think that if he uses the 30-day no contact rule, he's going to be able to get over his ex and feel like he doesn't need her anymore, and then he's going to be ready to contact her and get her back. Yet what most guys find is that during the no contact period, all they're really doing is thinking about their ex-girl. He's constantly thinking about her and worrying what she might be up to. He keeps looking at his phone to see if he's got any missed calls or text messages. He's looking at her on social media. He's looking through old photos. He's imagining her moving on with a new guy, and he's feeling horrible about it. He's also not feeling as confident as he used to feel, right? He's feeling a bit down as a result of the breakup. He's feeling a bit sad and hurt and lonely about the fact that she's not running back to him. She's not contacting him and wanting to give him another chance. So what happens in cases like this is that a guy has intended to use the 30 or 60-day no contact period as a way to get over his ex and feel like he isn't needy of her anymore, but he ends up being even more needy and not being able to get over her. Meanwhile, she's fine in most cases, right? She just moves on, she starts feeling happy with her life again and potentially meets a new guy or new guys. However, that said, if you want to use the no contact rule to completely get over your ex because you're intending on not contacting her and just hooking up with new women and moving on, then great. It can work because if your intention is just to move on without her and get over her, then not looking back and just focusing on new women can make that happen. Of course, there's no guarantee. A lot of guys who get dumped by the woman that they love don't ever forget about her. They are often thinking about her and wishing that they could get her back. Another example of when it's okay to use the no contact rule and when it can work is you want to give her the freedom to date other guys so she can see that you are better. This often applies in cases where a guy is a really cool, confident guy and can easily attract other women. He understands how to make women feel attracted. He's a masculine guy and he knows that women want him, right? He knows that he's got the goods. Yet he was treating his woman badly. He wasn't giving her enough commitment. He may have disregarded her feelings and made her feel stupid or unworthy of him, and she had enough. She then broke up with him and he accepted it. Now, as a way to get her back, he might decide that he's totally fine about her going out there and hooking up with other guys because he knows she's not going to be able to find another guy like him. She's going to realize that other guys aren't as confident and cool and masculine as he is, and she's going to come back. Another example of when it's okay to use the no contact rule is you are long distance, have completely broken up, and have no way to see each other for at least 6 months. A man can get his woman back if they are long distance. What really matters is that he interacts with her and he makes her feel sexual and romantic attraction for him during their interactions. He does that over the phone and he gets in front of her. He either gets her to come and meet him or he goes and meets her. Whatever it takes, he gets an in-person interaction so he can trigger feelings of sexual and romantic attraction. He creates that magical feeling of attraction that brings a man and a woman together. She feels it. She feels so attracted to him, the love starts to flow again, and she wants to hook up with him sexually and she wants to try to work out how to make the relationship work. However, if a guy's in a situation where his ex has dumped him, she's long distance and there's absolutely no way he can go and see her, then the no contact rule can work. It can be okay. The reason why is that if there's no possible way to see each other and she knows that, then she's most likely going to hook up with other guys and start to move on. If a guy is still trying to get his ex-woman back and she's hooking up with new guys, then he's most likely going to feel hurt by that. He's most likely not going to be able to hide the pain that he's feeling when she tells him about that on a phone call or on a video call. However, all that said, if a guy does want to get his ex-woman back and they've completely broken up and are long distance, I highly recommend that he goes and sees her. I've heard back from so many guys who have done that and met up with their ex-girl, focused on attraction, hooked up with her sexually, and made her want the relationship again. That is how to get a woman back in a situation like that. Some guys are worried about doing it because they feel like it might seem needy to go to where she is. Here's the thing though, it's only needy if you are needy. Needy means that you need her to be good to you and to show you attention and to be nice to you in order to feel good about yourself. Not being needy is where you are happy and confident and enjoying life regardless of whether or not she's in it. Right? So you can be happy and confident and enjoying life regardless of whether or not she's in it and go and meet up with her. Right? You can still be that confident, emotionally independent guy. Right? But if you are needy of her and you are saying, please, let's meet up, and you go over there and you have a needy vibe, then it is going to look needy to her. It is going to look desperate. So there is a distinction, and that is that if you go and meet up with her and you're not needy, then it's not going to come across as needy and desperate. However, if you go and meet up with her and you are needy, then she's going to sense that and it's going to turn her off and put her guard up. Another example of when it's okay to use the no contact rule is you know that she's only pretending to break up with you to gain power over you in the relationship. So an example is where a woman is falling in love with a guy after just a month. Yet she secretly fears that he's going to break her heart because he seems like he could easily break up with her if he wanted to. So she pretends to break up with him to hopefully make him chase and plead with her. She hopes that she can then get him treating her better and being more committed to her, or possibly even take control of the relationship and make him feel like he needs her. By the way, this often happens when a guy wasn't really attracted to a woman initially, but she grew on him over time and he eventually accepted a relationship with her. She knew that he wasn't really attracted to her in the beginning, so she's breaking up with him now to hopefully make him feel like he needs her. So if you think that your woman has broken up with you just to gain power over you because you seemed like you didn't really need her, then the no contact rule can work. She will be sitting around worrying and feeling upset that she's losing a great guy like you, and she'll most likely contact you. Of course, there's no guarantee of that because she may decide to make herself feel better by hooking up with a new guy. If the new guy happens to make her feel more respect, attraction, and love, she may decide then to get into a relationship with him. Okay, so finally, another example of when it's okay to use the no contact rule is you immediately accept the breakup and walk away. Of course, most guys don't do that when they get broken up with. Most guys try to reason with the woman and convince her to give him another chance, and some guys make the mistake of then begging and pleading for another chance. So the small percentage of guys who didn't make that mistake and just accepted the breakup right away, they can use the no contact rule. The reason why is that she broke up with him and he just said, okay, I accept that. I love you, I want to be with you, but I accept that. See you later. And he walks away. She then feels empty. She feels like she's being rejected. Why isn't he chasing her? Why isn't he trying to reason with her and convince her to give him another chance? He seems like he's totally fine without her. Suddenly, she doesn't feel like she has gained much by breaking up with him. She's feeling worse. So what do you need to do if you're like 95% of guys who didn't immediately accept the breakup? What you need to do is focus on reattraction. You need to interact with your ex and actively make her feel sexually and romantically attracted to you. This is a feeling that happens automatically when you interact with a woman if you are displaying traits that make women feel attracted. For example, you're being confident and self-assured, even though she's being cold and distant and difficult. You're using humor to make her laugh, even though she's acting like it's not working. You're using flirting to create a sexual vibe, even though she's acting like that couldn't work on her and isn't working on her. What you need to understand is that most women want to use the no contact rule after a breakup because they're afraid that their ex is going to make them have feelings again. So in most cases, the no contact rule just helps a woman to move on from her guy. Right? He's not interacting with her and actively seducing her. He's not making her have sexual and romantic feelings. She holds on to how she was feeling leading up to the breakup, during the breakup and after she broke up with him. She felt like it was the right thing to do. In most cases, the woman will try to just focus on that and stick with the breakup and move on. So while her guy is giving her 30 or 60 days of space and hoping that it works to get her back, she is quietly moving on or very loudly moving on. She might quietly move on by getting into a relationship or hooking up with new guys and not telling her ex about it, or she might loudly move on by getting into a new relationship and announcing it on social media and texting her ex about it to make him feel bad. So in summary, what I recommend for most guys is that they don't use the no contact rule. What I'm not talking about though is the opposite of the no contact rule, where you bombard your ex with messages and phone calls and plead and beg. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting her back in a confident, calm manner. You interact with her and you create feelings of sexual and romantic attraction. Her guard comes down, she opens up to you, and you can get her back into a relationship naturally. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something from it. If you'd like to learn more and follow a step-by-step process to get your ex back, I recommend that you watch my program, Get Your Ex Back Super System. When you watch the program, you will learn how to quickly get her back into a relationship with you without seeming needy or desperate. You'll learn how to get her back in a way that makes her feel a renewed sense of respect and attraction for you. She will experience sparks of respect, attraction, and love for you. Her feelings will come flooding back. She will want to be in a relationship with you, and you'll get back with her naturally and easily. One final point that I want to make in this video is that it's up to you what approach you take to get your ex back. If you want to cut off contact with her and just run the risk that she won't move on without you and she won't be happy without you, then go ahead and do that. However, if you want to take control of the situation, then what I recommend you focus on is attraction. I recommend that you interact with your ex and actively make her feel attracted to you. Interact with her and create those magical feelings that bring a man and a woman together. Sexual and romantic attraction. Once you create those feelings inside of her, she automatically begins to look at you differently. She starts feeling attracted to you. The love starts flowing back into her heart. She looks at you with loving eyes. She feels attracted in a sexual and romantic way. As a result, getting her back becomes a natural, easy thing. She wants to get back with you. She wants to explore the new, interesting feelings that she has for you. She doesn't want to regret you being the one that got away. She doesn't want to go on for the next couple of weeks or couple of months or couple of years of her life thinking about you and wondering why she just didn't give you another chance. You interacted with her and you made her feel attracted. There was clearly sparks flying between you and her. Most women do not want to walk away from that.